Hey, it's Martine here. So if you listen regularly to Post Reports, you know that I haven't been hosting lately. That's because I've been covering the White House for the Post. It has been an amazing opportunity so far, and also it's been a little bit stressful. That's why I am so excited to be in your feeds today with a conversation that is refreshing and relaxing.
Maybe we should all just take a beat and take a deep breath. Would you like to do that with me?
Sure.
So sit with your butt firmly on the chair, your feet firmly on the ground.
Okay, give me a second here.
Sit up nice and straight. And then through your nose, take a nice, slow, deep breath in. 1, 2, 3. And out slowly. It's remarkably powerful and maybe subtle how much a few deep breaths, slowing your breath down, can help you feel better and go about your day, maybe with a clearer mind.
This is Richard Sima. He reports on the neuroscience of everyday life for the Post. And he recently sat down with me to talk about breathing. So, Richard, is this what you do all day? You just think about how to breathe in and out?
I thought you were going to ask, is this what I do all day, breathe? And I was going to say yes. But then...
That's true. I mean, I would hope so.
I do think about it a lot now. I got really fascinated with how something so simple, something we don't really think about much, can be something that we use more consciously to make ourselves feel better when maybe we're feeling anxious or stressed out.
And I probably don't have to tell you that there is a lot to feel anxious and stressed out about these days.
This morning, after a week of shaky markets and tariff whiplash, President Trump is hesitant to rule out a recession in 2020.
Measles cases are most likely being underreported in the U.S. That's according to...
The powerful storm system makes its way across the country. Tornado watches and warnings.
Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 2, 3, 4.
Lately, Richard has been really leaning into simple practices that can help calm our minds. Breath work, and also taking a nap.
It's very common in other cultures, the siesta in Spain, or like taking some time in the afternoons in Italy. But, the research is really starting to bear out that could be something that you do to be more productive.
From the newsroom of the Washington Post, this is Post Reports. I'm Martine Powers. It's Friday, April 18th. Today, my conversation with Richard about how to take a better nap and why finding calm and rest in stressful moments is so good for our brains. Richard, I'm excited to talk to you more about breathing. I understand we're also going to talk today about napping, but I have to admit to you my feelings about napping. Do you want to hear them?
Oh, yeah. Lay it on me.
So the only acceptable forms of napping are if you are jet lagged or if you have a new baby. And other than that, napping is just for when you're feeling lazy or when you don't have enough to do. And that even when you nap, you wake up feeling kind of horrible anyways, that you're just more tired and more groggy and more out of sorts than you were when you started the nap. So those are my feelings about napping, that it's way overrated as a concept.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, especially here in the US, have those exact same feelings.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the research does show that actually it might be a good way to boost your productivity if that's what you're keen on doing. It makes us more vigilant, improves our mental processing speed, our memory. And so it has all these great cognitive benefits.
I'm open to being persuaded.
I admit I love naps. So maybe I'm on the opposite spectrum. But I learned a lot about how to take my naps a little better.
Well, yeah, let's start by talking a little bit more about the napping part of things. Because as you said, you have, according to your reporting, that naps are, scientists say, this way to sharpen your cognition and your memory. Tell me more about that science. Like, what? Really?
Yeah. Sleep is beneficial to us, and naps are just another form of sleep. Research has shown that when we sleep, our brains are actually replaying some of our memories in the hippocampus, which is a core, essential memory part of the brain. It helps us store new memories. It's on the sides in the temporal lobe of the brain. That's actually shaped like a curved tube, kind of like a seahorse, which is how it got its name. It's seahorse in Greek. So it's on the sides of your brain. You have two of them, one on each side. And yeah, that's where your initial memories are being encoded before it's shipped off to storage long-term in your cortex. We're also seeing that this happens after napping, that there's more activation in the hippocampus after a nap, which indicates that maybe a nap is restoring some of the functions of the hippocampus.
I'm interested in what you said earlier about how, napping is good for you because sleep is good for you. And I think that gets at an assumption that I have about napping, that when I think about a good night's sleep and the restorative benefits, it's like having that REM cycle going and, getting those 8 hours and really being dead to the world. Yeah. And that a cat nap, just isn't the same thing. I hear you when you say that there are these benefits, but what makes that difference between that good nap experience and that bad nap?
Yeah, there's research showing that the length of the nap might matter. So shorter naps, about 30 minutes or less, tend to be maybe more beneficial. There's sort of a paradox in the amount of sleep or napping we get. Basically, the more time people spend napping in general, it's correlated with more adverse health risks. But when they looked at people who nap for less than 30 minutes, those risks were not there. And it's not necessarily that the longer naps are causing this worse health, but it's maybe a signal that something else already was going wrong in the body, that they're napping to compensate for poor health.
Interesting. If you're taking a 90-minute nap or 2-hour nap, that might be a sign that there's something wrong.
It could be. It could be something you could bring up with a sleep doctor if it's something that you're not planning on napping that long, for example. And also, for the longer naps, you are more likely to go into deep sleep. So we first go light sleep, deep sleep, and then through REM sleep, and then we cycle back through to light sleep again. But after about 30 minutes or so, that's when we start going into that deep sleep phase of the cycle. And when you're there and you come back and you wake up immediately through that, you're more likely to feel groggy. You feel like you have no idea what's going on. And, this is called sleep inertia because just like in physics, a body at rest tends to stay at rest. And
yeah, that is my napping problem, that my body at rest just, in fact, tend to stay at rest.
Yeah, but if you keep your naps shorter, you're less likely to suffer that sleep inertia, that grogginess. It could still happen, but it's less likely to be severe and less likely to be as impairing.
In terms of a nap actually compensating for a bad night of sleep, is there a one-to-one there? I mean, will a good nap make up for bad real sleep?
I think in the short term, the research shows that it can at least compensate for your cognitive performance somewhat. There were studies showing that it could bring your attention or memory about to baseline, maybe not quite. But in the long term, it's still not a replacement for actually getting your full night's sleep. I would also like to add that naps are great even if you do have a full night's of sleep, but you still feel tired for whatever reason, or you need a little bit of boost. Studies show that it does still improve people's memories, even if they are well rested from the night before.
So thinking about your own successful naps, what is some of your advice for how to have a good nap and like the circumstances around your nap? I mean, how do you set up the right vibe for quality nap?
Yeah, so because naps are still a form of sleep, good sleep hygiene is really important. And it might be even harder during the day, but keeping things dark, cool, and quiet. I draw the shades, I bring out my eye mask, I have earplugs in, and also making sure I give myself the time to fall asleep. If I really need a nap, I'm usually out in 5 to 10 minutes. So I build that in with when I set my alarm. And, I make sure to try to sleep in the afternoon, not too close to bedtime, because I don't want to disrupt my nighttime sleep. And then when I wake up, reopen up the curtains, like turn on bright lights just to help me feel more vigilant and get restarted with my work. And for the people who find it difficult to nap, I think it's also important to note that even just taking those minutes to yourself by closing your eyes can be very restorative as well.
Or perhaps breathing could be another way to use that time.
Yes, that is also a perfect use of your time.
After the break, we breathe and talk about the power of breath work. We'll be right back.
My name is Tom Sietsema, and I am the food critic for The Washington Post. I think a lot of great restaurant meals are like great books, films, or concerts. You don't necessarily need them to live, but don't they make life more worth living? I see myself as sort of a reader advocate going in there, spending the Post's money, coming back and giving you the green light, yield sign, or a stop sign. I like to be seen as sort of the best friend who happens to eat out a lot more than they do. I eat in about 10 restaurants a week. And I like creating memories for people and helping them create memories, whether those are first date, a 50th anniversary, grandma's 90th birthday, if you have special needs, whether they're dietary or otherwise. When you subscribe to The Washington Post, you support this kind of journalism. Learn more at subscribe.washingtonpost.com. I'm Tom Sietsema, and I'm one of the people behind the Post.
So, Richard, let's talk about breathing and breath work, which I gather is what you had me do at the beginning, was take a very intentional, deep, long breath in and out. Explain to me, what is breath work and what were we doing there?
Yeah, breath work are these practices where you are very intentionally controlling how you breathe, how fast, how deep. And many of these practices have been shown to have the power to alleviate stress and improve our mood. The research is really fascinating here because with every time we breathe in, our pupils in our eyes dilate a little. Our reaction times are slightly quicker. We're a little better at remembering information. Our response to emotional stuff is a little heightened, and we are less likely to move. And every time we breathe out, the opposite is the same. So our behavior is oscillating with our breaths. And at the same time, so is our brain activity too.
What's happening in your brain when you're taking these deep breaths?
Yeah, if you think about it, our breaths are this beautiful pattern of in and out. And, that gives a signal to the brain that you can see in the hippocampus, which, again, is important for memory. When neuroscientists record activity there, they see that it also oscillates as we breathe, while we sleep, and while we're awake. And the breath also, influences the neural activity in parts of the brain that are important for emotion and cognition. This includes the amygdala, which is known as the fear center of the brain, but is important for many emotions, as well as the prefrontal cortex, which is important for a lot of our executive cognitive functions.
So, given all that, how do we breathe better and with more tranquility and restorative benefits?
Many of us, breathe pretty shallowly, and we actually breathe pretty rapidly too. The research suggests that most people breathe 12 to 20 times a minute. And what a lot of the researchers on breathing told me is we should be aiming for more around 6 breaths a minute.
6 breaths a minute?
Yeah, it's quite slow.
It feels highly rationed. I feel like I would take 6 breaths in 20 seconds and be like, oh my gosh, I ran out of breath for the rest of this minute.
Well, I mean, that's actually the basis of why a lot of these breathing exercises, give you these counts for how long you do each step of a breathing cycle. It's, really slowing down your breathing rate. And that seems to be why people's mood or, feelings of anxiety change.
So talk to me about some of those exercises. Like what
Yeah.
when you talk about a breathing exercise, like what does that mean other than just like breathe slower and only 6 times in a minute?
Well, that's just the magic number that one of the breathing experts, Paul Daligan, told me. But one really common breathing pattern is known as box breathing. And so basically, there's 4 stages of our basic breath cycle. We inhale, we hold that inhale, we exhale, and then we hold that exhale. And for each of those steps, we could hold it for 3 or 4 seconds. So if you want, we could do one pass through this.
Yeah, let's do it.
One thing to keep in mind is, mind your posture, breathe like as softly and as smoothly as possible. And, try to feel that you're not just breathing through your chest, you're breathing like you let your belly come up with the breath. It might help to put a hand beneath the sternum above your belly button to just feel that it's expanding as you breathe in and that it's going down as you breathe out. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. And how did that feel?
I would say it was relaxing. I feel relaxed now. Probably have to do it more than one time.
Yeah, no, for sure. Like even 5 minutes can help, sort of reset this sympathetic parasympathetic balance. This sympathetic fight or flight, parasympathetic rest or digest mode, because breathing sends a signal through the vagal nerve to our brains, and slow breathing is an even more potent signal that sort of tells you to, literally take a beat. And what you did right there, if you kept on doing it for a minute, that box breathing for 4 seconds each step already would slow your breathing rate down to less than 4 breaths a minute.
Wow. Okay. Well, I'm well on my way then.
I think that's one of the really powerful things about breathing is, it's with us from birth, and it's something that we could always call upon to, help us when we need it, if we remember that we have it.
Richard, thank you so much for sharing all of your insights on this.
Oh yeah, thank you so much for having me. This was a pleasure.
Richard Sima writes the Brain Matters column for The Post. If you want to learn more about other breathing exercises, check out the link in our show notes. That's it for Post Reports. Thanks for listening. Today's episode was produced by Alana Gordon. It was mixed by Sean Carter and edited by Lucy Perkins with help from Maggie Penman. Thanks also to Anjuman Ali. Our team also includes Rena Flores, Ted Muldoon, Ariel Plotnick, Rennie Svirnovsky, Sabby Robinson, Emma Talkoff, Peter Bresnan, Laura Benshoff, Renita Jablonski, and Elahe Izadi. I'm Martine Powers. We'll be back on Monday with more stories from the Washington Post.